what's up, comrades? I forgot my headphones. So, this is going to be excellent audio quality for the first couple episodes that I've already watched of Highlander Raven. Yeah, boy! The Amanda spinoff show. That is, it's alright. It doesn't really have the gravitas, if you will, of Highlander, the regular series, or the movies. It's kind of like, it really is like a spinoff. It's like Amanda doing Amanda shit. And then there's like Nick Wolf. And there's a whole thing with her being like a raven, and the raven's like the trickster god who steals things, and then there's like the wolf who's like the warrior. It's got some ridiculous overwrought like thing going on, and Amanda's still fine as shit. I mean, she's got like buzz cut essentially hair, which it's not bad on her, to be completely honest. Like, you see this with a lot of black women, you don't see it with too many white women. I got to be completely honest, but where it's like they shave their head virtually completely, or it's like really short, and you're like, oh, still hot. I mean, they got like the facial structure and the head shape for it and whatnot. So yeah, it is what it is. It's never my preference, right? So like when we see Amanda at the end of like Highlander season 6, and she's got long hair in like It's a Wonderful Life starring Duncan MacLeod, I was like, there it is. She's hot as shit. She's got a nice rack. She's got like a nice B/C cup situation going on, but they like present it well, which is what the presentation is the most important part, right? And as a lolicon myself, I don't really care that much about boobs, but I appreciate them, right? Like, it's not my like go-to thing in like my wife or anybody else that I have ever dated, but like as a man, you always appreciate like the melons as long as they're like well shaped and presented well. So there you go. And so this episode begins. Where does it begin? It begins with like some shenanigans. God, where did it begin? Oh, there's like a jewelry thief, and it's blamed on Amanda. And we meet the two coppers. We meet Nick Wolf, right, who's like the second main character of the series, and then we meet Claudia something, and Claudia is like talking to her husband or something, and she's got like kids in school, and she's stressed out because she's balancing all these things in work, and you could not write a 90s character that was going to die in this in the first episode of a new series more stereotypical than this chick right here. So like, don't get too attached to Claudia Hoffman, because she ain't gonna last longer than this episode. We then meet, in this episode, we only meet one other immortal. It's Basil, and he is like a wormy looking fence that Amanda uses, and she actually uses like a different fence, but he gets killed at the very beginning, and then Basil gets killed too, but he's immortal, so it doesn't matter, right? And so she stole these jewels. She's trying to fence them. The murder gets blamed on her by the police. They're like trying to bring her in. She keeps running away. Oh, she's got like a delightful like sidekick. Dun dun dun. I don't think I wrote down the name of her. She's like an older Lucy. According to Lucy, more is going on than coming in. More of Amanda's growth. No, Lucy's like some. I like pulled up the fandom page to like see if it like told me more, but it does not. Friends: Nick Wolf, Claudia Hoffman, Basil Morgan, Carl Magnus. I don't know why she's not in here. Enemies Stanley Fair. Anyway, okay. So the first episode goes. We meet Nick. We get a little understanding of him. We spend a lot of time with Claudia, which tells us even more that she's going to die, right? Because Nick obviously is going to die. He does like the opening crawl, like what Joe used to do in the Highlander, starting in like season 2. And then Amanda's like, she's like this old lady who is like a sister to her that it's again, none of these characters were in like Highlander. This is like a totally new thing they're trying to push. And thusly we get a fun lady who keeps trying to get Amanda to like flee the country because she knows she's immortal and all this stuff. And then at some point, Nick almost gets killed by the bad guy. So the bad guy who's stealing all this stuff, blaming on Amanda, is another police officer. His name is Stanley Thayers. And so Amanda becomes aware of this because, again, he robs Basil and shoots him, and he's immortal, so he gets up. And then Basil like goes to like get Amanda out of the police station after they arrest her, thinking that she like, they're just trying to bother her about stuff. And so then he recognizes like, hey, that guy. And so then Amanda starts kind of following him because she's a thief, but she's no murderer, right? And she saves Nick's life, and then he's convinced Amanda didn't do it, and he sees that it's this Stanley character who's super shady, and so he goes to like tell Claudia, and then they all like meet up, and the guy like shoots Claudia, and then he gets killed by Nick, and then there's a whole thing with like at some point, Amanda got shot as well as Claudia by this Stanley guy, but then she got up and like wandered off. And so Nick's like, how did you survive? And Amanda's like, Kevlar vest, I always wear one. Right? And so that gets dealt with more a little bit in the next episode. But tragic death of the mom. But everyone else is doing great. Except Stanley, who also died. That's episode 1. So the fandom website has really let me down for this series. I might have to start using AI to like take notes, or just to actually take notes instead of like watching these while I'm like fidgeting around the house doing chores, and then try to like recover like names and stuff. So this episode, okay, so part of what I missed in the last episode synopsis or discussion was that there was a whole thing about how the asshole guy Nick wanted like an investigation into him and all this stuff, but he died as well, right? And so because him and Claudia were both dead, the chief of police or whatever in, I don't know where they're supposed to be. It can't be Gotham. That's where they were. What is it? What is the Superman town? Metropolis. So while they're in Metropolis, the chief of police is like, oh, we're not going to do that. It's going to put like a weird microscope on the police force, and we don't want to do that. So we're just not. And we're going to promote you to be lieutenant if you shut the fuck up. And Nick does the noble thing, I don't know if it's the right thing, and quits the force. So now he's, I don't even know, private eye? I don't think it comes up. I think he just does like police stuff without being a part of the police force for the foreseeable future. Anyway, he goes in and like bothers Amanda some more, and she is like, what? And he's like, there's more than meets the eye with this whole situation. And she's like, no, there's not. And then there's a whole thing with, trying not to mix, I watched 2 and 3 back to back. So in this episode deals with the mob. That's right. So then Amanda and Nick just like so happen to both be in like the same location, like roughly at the same time or whatever. And so they see this old Navajo guy get killed. And then Amanda like speaks Navajo because she's like 1,000 years old, right? And so after they get into like a weird argument about like how she's alive and what's going on with that, they see this like murder take place. And then she talks to the Navajo guy, and then he dies. And so Nick starts doing an investigation, even though he's not a police officer or a private eye or anything. He just like is bored and I guess has a pension somehow, even though he quit the force. I don't know where his money comes from. But so he's just like out and about doing detective stuff. This show made a lot more sense if he just was a lieutenant or he was like a detective that could like work on murders, but I don't know what they were thinking. Again, the show's not super great. It's fine. And Amanda's hot, so that's nice. And this guy's hot too if you're into that, but I'm not. Anyway, going back to it, he tracks down like this Navajo guy who may or may not be related to the guy who died, who is like a hacker, and he's looking into like this Navajo saying that the guy used, which was like some gibberish that means like red storm, and he's like, red storm. Meanwhile, Amanda is like, oh, I know exactly what's going on here. So she contacts like her old buddy, or she gets approached. I can't remember. No. She gets approached by like an old buddy who's this Italian mobster guy who she had like friendly relationships with in the past, but as of late has been like kind of swearing off this dude because he's like crazy as shit. And she like we get a flashback, which is awesome because I don't think we got any of those in the first episode. And we go back to like, I don't know, some time period, and he's doing like mafioso stuff, as in like he has her like go and trade out like a vase. And then when he gets a new vase, the real vase, he like does something and like causes an explosion and kills some people for some reason. And she's like, I can't be friends with you anymore because you murder people. And he's like, whatever, babe, deal with it. And so he like accosts her and her like old lady friend in their home and is like, hey, what'd you see? And it's like, I saw you kill that guy for like no reason. And, there's a reason for it. And what's that reason? I don't know. There's some reason. Anyway, and then he's like, hey, whatever, man, I make the good gnocchi. You should come by that restaurant sometime. And he's like, his restaurant's like super famous or something. Anyway, so Nick and Amanda kind of together or separately like run into this guy together as they're trying to like figure out what's going on. And then Amanda at some point like confesses to him that she's immortal, and he doesn't believe her. And she's like, you should like lay off this dude. He's immortal. I'm immortal. You got to stay out of here. And he's like, no, I don't believe you. That's ridiculous. And so she like shoots herself. I think that's this episode. This might be in episode 3. But anyway, it happens at some point. So she shoots herself in the car, and he's like, no. And I'm pretty sure it's episode 2 because it happens like right after the other Claudia dies. And then she's like, ta-da, I'm alive. And he's like, holy shit. And she's like, that's why you got to leave that motherfucker alone. Like Gio Brani over here or whatever his fucking name was. And he's like, no, I refuse. Anyway, so the Italian guy, this episode makes absolutely no sense. Maybe I should have watched it more carefully. But he hires an assassin to kill him while he's like at church. And then, he's not really dead, obviously. And Nick's like, why would he do that if he's immortal? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, so he can make a new personality because he's trying to get away from something. And the code talker and me and you're like investigating and yada, yada. And he sent some goons to go kill this like Native American guy as well at some point. Anyway, so at some point Amanda has to fight him, which is awesome because there was no sword fighting in the first episode. Like the pilot episode was kind of boring as crap. This episode's not much better, but at least we get like a sword fight. So she tracks him down and is like, hey, you gotta stop doing this. And he's like, no, you gonna make me? And she's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna make you. And then they fight and she kills the shit out of him. And then Nick sees like the lightning stuff and he's like, holy fuck, what was that? And she's like, I told you, we're immortal. So he's dead now. I killed him and I took his powers. And he's like, wow. Oh, fuck. All right, episode 3 here, we get introduced to... what's his name? There's a guy who is trying to... He goes and he tries to kill this woman, this McCarty woman or something like that. Hold on, maybe it'll tell me here. William Kenworthy, Dennis... Grady, that's it. Kill this Grady guy, or this Grady lady. He fails, right? But then he's supposed to be dead, but he's missing from the morgue. And then Nick, who's like on the case... for some reason, he gets hired as like a bodyguard or something. I don't remember. There's some bullshit reason why he's like in the hospital with her, and she's like, "Oh, please protect me, please." And at this point, Amanda's kind of digging this Nick guy, and her like old lady friend is like all about it. She's like, "Oh, how's handsome blue eyes doing?" And Amanda's like, or has handsome green eyes, and Amanda's like, "He's got blue eyes," and she's like, "Oh, I knew you liked this motherfucker," and she's like, "Whatever." Yeah, I think it is Lucy. I think that is her name. Like, it's like written down here again. So that's super fun. Let's see. Okay, yeah. And so then this episode, much like the last episode, Amanda's like, hey, leave this motherfucker alone. He's another immortal. Let immortals do immortal business. Only this guy's not like an asshole necessarily. I mean, he is an asshole. But the story goes, like, back in the past, like, Amanda was dating this kid who was, like, adopted by this guy who was, like, a wealthy philanthropist or something. And then this dirty, like, cop came in and, like, shot him because of, like, I don't know, socialism, or he was trying to, like, get reform in the city or something. And then we shot him and the guy. And then the guy is, like, an immortal. What was his name? Let's see, it'll probably tell me here somewhere. I want to say his name is Bert. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, the old timey guy. And so now then because he killed his like adopted son who was going to do all this stuff and change the world, and he was such like a beautiful boy and all this stuff, he like went to the funeral for like his son. And shot the police officer for some fucking reason, was at the grave. And then Amanda's like, the fuck you doing? You're immortal. You can't be doing this shit anymore. And he's like, I don't care about nothing. That guy deserved to die, and I fucking killed him. And she's like, well, scoot, get out of here, and I'll help you later. And then like she doesn't see this guy for years. And so she wants to help him because she was like in love with his son, and they were like, I don't know, gonna get married or something, who knows, with immortal stuff. And so this guy, we find out he's been like killing the descendants of this guy, which is like the Grady guy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the name. Grady. So he's been killing the descendants like this whole time. Like, and he doesn't kill all the descendants because he wants to like keep getting revenge. He kills like the best of them because it's some sort of like strange justice thing that's going on in his head where it's like, yes, I will kill the greatest of them, and then their line will just be weak or some crazy bullshit like that. And Ben is like, well, you should probably just stop and go do something else with your life. And he's like, no, I must for my son. Oh, Lord God, my son, my son. And then Nick keeps trying to get involved, and Amanda keeps trying to push him off. And then eventually this guy keeps trying to go kill like the girl, and then Nick keeps trying to like fight him or whatever, and he gets shot and he keeps getting back up, obviously. And then Amanda's trying to be like, hey, just let him kill this dumb bitch, man. Like, the fuck, it has nothing to do with you. And he's like, no, I can't. And he's like, what are you gonna do? Shoot him? You're just gonna keep shooting him and he's gonna keep being fine forever? Eventually the episode comes to a head. Amanda doesn't kill him. He gets like, he's not even there. I can't, like, I didn't see what happened, to be completely honest, because I kind of checked out for a little bit, and it was just like on while I was like washing dishes. But he gets killed, and Amanda doesn't get any of like the quickening because Nick had something to do with it. Like, he fell and his head got cut off or something. I'm sure I could chat GPT it, but honestly, I don't give a fuck because oh man. Oh, Lord, I got like 20 more episodes of this thing. But, yeah, it's all right. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. But yeah, there you go. That's episode 3.
Episode 4 consists of Nick working on some case to get plans from like a Romanian lady. So this lady's like works for the diplomat's office or something, but she's got plans to something, and there's some guy from the State Department that has hired Nick specifically for some reason, even though he's like a beat cop or whatever. I think he was actually a detective. Anyway, so they hired him to get the plans back from this lady, and what's happening is that she was like did something, she murdered somebody, but she had diplomatic immunity, and then she was supposed to leave, and then she came back and she's like shopping or something, so they're gonna get her in jail, and then they have to like go to like some sort of party because that's where the plans are being kept in the embassy or something. And so Nick has to go there, but he has to go there with like a partner, like a wife. Otherwise we can't include Amanda in these schemes. It's like the justification. Meanwhile, Amanda's having this, it looks like a dream. There's some autistic immortal who bases all his things on like the calculations of like, he does like a power rating like in an anime and determines like who has lower power ratings than him, and once he determines that like it is time for that person to be killed by him, that's how he's operated. So he like killed his master like that and whatnot, and now he's after Amanda because for some reason Amanda's next, and so she's kind of freaking out because this guy is like autistic and has like all her stats including her bust. And then her friend, the old lady, wants her, Lucy, I think, wants her to leave. And of course, Amanda's like, I'm not going to leave. And then you need to leave. And they get into like a funny fight because Amanda's trying to get her to leave because Amanda's not super confident she can beat this guy because he keeps talking about power levels and crazy nonsense. Anyway, so then everything kind of gets together. So Nick's doing his thing. He convinces Amanda to come with him because he essentially saves her from this guy like busts into her place. And then she meets the State Department guy, and they have to go to this party, and they go to the party, and they have to pretend to be newlyweds, so they actually kiss to like hide with their intentions of like breaking into the safe to steal these plans. And then meanwhile, the Romanian lady is like getting out of prison, and she's got diplomatic immunity, so what she's doing is she's going to go grab the plans and then get in a helicopter and fly somewhere else so she can fly to Bucharest. And let's see. Oh, and then while they're trying to like get these plans, Amanda and Nick are trying to get these plans and do everything else, the immortal guy keeps showing up, and finally Amanda's like, I'm going to go fight him. So she goes to fight him, and Nick goes to like follow the Romanian diplomat lady but then he decides he's going to help Amanda, which is against the rules, obviously. So Amanda and the guy are fighting, and then Nick like rolls up and shoots him into a fountain. Like shoots. Amanda's like, "What are you doing? You can't do that. There's rules." And he's like, "No, what are you talking about? I have to help you." It's like, "No, you can't help me. That's the whole point of the thing." And they get into like an argument about the game, and he's like, "Why do you call it a game? It's life and death." And she's like, "Well, yeah, because it's like what it is, man. Like, what do you want us to call it?" It's like some stupid nonsense. Anyway, so she's upset about that, but then she goes and they like figure out, they're trying to track like an airport she's going to fly out of or whatever. But then for some reason, it's like, oh no, helicopter makes more sense. So they go and find like this helicopter, and she's like, I have diplomatic immunity. There's nothing you can do. And then Amanda just like one punch mans her in the face and then grabs the plans and then hands them over to the State Department guy. And then she's like, all right, I got to go fight this guy. Adios. And he's like, I'm coming with you. And she's like, you stay here and shut the F up. And then we find out that the State Department guy and the Romanian diplomat lady were like lovers or something. And so he gets her like a ticket back to Bucharest if she wants, or she can stay and be his lover some more. And then she decides to go back. And then Nick's like super mad because he wants this woman from a different state who's like got diplomatic immunity to be tried for murder or something, which is not going to happen. And then the guy's like, well, she's going to go back to Romania, and then she didn't get the plans that she was sent over here to get, and so that could be considered treason because, I don't know. At some point, someone mentions very specifically that they're no longer under the Iron Curtain, but even after the Iron Curtain, Romania was ran by, what was his name? Ceausescu or something like that, who was kind of a dictator, if I remember correctly. And so it was still like communism. Like, just because the Iron Curtain fell doesn't mean there wasn't like some sort of stuff like that. I don't know my Eastern European history, but I know there was something like that. Like, it was still kind of crazy for a little bit in Romania before it calmed down quite a bit. Okay, so, and then Amanda goes to fight this guy. We see like a tiny bit of the battle, but we mostly see just Nick and Lucy. I gotta like pay attention to her name. The old lady, they're just like chatting about what's going on, and then Amanda shows up, and Nick's like, you okay? And Amanda's like, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, okay, just making sure. And then he leaves, and that's the end of the episode. episode 5 starts off with this kid doing science stuff in some sort of science lab, and then he gets killed. Oh no! We then flip forward a little bit, and we have Nick and Amanda, and they're discussing how Amanda needs some help from Nick, and Nick's like, "Oh, how the tables have turned! You need help from me." Well. And she's like, "Shut the fuck up. Let's go." And so they go meet Charlie. Charlie's this old man who served in like, not Nam. In like CIA stuff, doing CIA stuff, and his son's dead. Oh no! And he knows that the federale did it, but he has no way to prove it. So he wants Amanda and Nick to help him figure it out. So supposedly his son like killed himself, or like no, his son was like killed by like a drunk driver or something, and it's all natural, and you shouldn't look into it, and don't worry about it. And he's like, those mother effers, they killed my son. I'll get them. And so Amanda and Nick start looking into it, and they find this other guy who's working on. Oh, so the kid was working on this like seed project, and seed like literally like seeds, like you plant things, right? And so then they eventually find this other guy who was like working with the son. I don't remember what the name of the son was. And this guy, as soon as I get there, the guy like quote unquote kills himself, and they're like, oh no, and it's like, oh, it's a federale. And so then they meet the federale, which is like this Martin guy, and I think there's another guy too, Hewlett. Something like that. Anyway, so then they're like, oh, you're talking to that crazy old man. He used to work for us, you know? And then they talk to Charlie, and he's like, oh, back when I was working for the CIA, blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of skullduggery, back and forth. And obviously, the federale did kill his son. But Nick is like, you know, he's got to get proof or something. He's got to have more evidence. And well, so what? So what if they did? Like, what are we going to do about it? And Amanda's like, we're going to get revenge. He's like, how are we going to do that? She's like, I don't know. We're going to do it. Anyway, so there's a lot of that, a lot of back and forth, a lot of searching around. Eventually, Charlie gets like thrown in jail, or they all get thrown in jail, I think, because Charlie like assaults one of these guys or something. Anyway, they talk about it some more. They break out, and then there's like a whole thing where Charlie wants to get revenge, and so let's see. It says someone else. Hold on. Okay, so Martin, I think, wants to get the seeds. And so if they help him get the seeds, he'll get them out of, he will bail them out of jail. But then like they prove that he was involved with like the killing. And so then they get all the evidence for the story, and they reveal the story to the press. And so there's a trial, but then like Foster gets away free because of corruption and whatnot. And so Charlie kills him, and then Charlie gets killed by the Hewitt guy. Yep. And that's the story. These stories are okay. This next episode is actually a little bit fun. It starts off with Amanda trying to rob this auction house, but then she gets outdone by these like two other thieves, and then she loses some of her equipment. She chases after them, and then one of the guys like dives into the river, and it's this black guy, and that's important for the story. I'm not just saying that, but and so then she's like hanging out in her penthouse, and Nick shows up and is like, she's trying to like go to sleep, or it's like early in the morning or something, and he's like, I know you were at the auction house, and she's like, don't know what you're talking about. And then he's like, you were involved in this thing. And she's like, I don't have it. Nothing happened. And eventually it comes out that there was another group of thieves. And that is like, the police are like very heavily invested in finding out what happened. And they think she did it. And so they show up at her house, and they arrest both Nick and her because he's like an accomplice. And since Nick's not actually a cop, they like give him a hard time about dating a thief, essentially a known thief for all this stuff, or a suspected thief. They have no proof. Otherwise she would have been arrested. Right. And she just denies. We then switch over. We see these guys talking about stuff, and Nick thinks that this Amanda's being sketchy because it's like an immortal thing, and she's like, no, it's not an immortal thing. And at some point in this episode, she talks to her friend Basil, the fence, and he's like, it's got to be an immortal. Like, why else would this person like dive into the river? Because the picture of this guy is all over the news everywhere. And he looks very familiar to Amanda. And then we get a flashback, finally, like an awesome flashback. So we see these people in like the Bahamas, I think, in like the 1700s. It's this black woman and her husband, and they were slaves, but then they were freed, and they were given like this note. And the note says, it's like from King George, saying that they can go to, I think, America, and get like a parcel of land and all this stuff. And this parcel of land would be worth like a ton of money in the future. And so they're trying to get on the ship to go, and this racist like captain is like absolutely not something, and then he's talking about how he's going to like kill these people, and then Amanda shows up and is like, "What are you doing, you asshole?" And she's like, "I'll duel you," and he's like, "I will not duel a lady," and she's like, "I'm not a lady," and she pulls out a sword, and then they fight. And she obviously beats the crap out of him, and is like, "They're coming with me. They're my guests. They're going to come on the ship." So they head onto the ship, and then at some point. And this again, like with when I'm talking about like the Immortal series, I'm kind of, these flashbacks don't all come at one time, but I mean, there's no reason for them not to all be at one time, just to like break up the episode a little bit more. But for our sake, we see that we have a shot of like the woman dying in Amanda's arms, like in the new world, and something about like they got like thrown off the ship or something happened. But there's like a kid who survived, and so Amanda's gonna like take care of the kid and make sure that they get what they need from like from all this stuff, right? And we find out that this guy, the black guy, who was thieving, he was just trying to take back the note or the documentation saying that his family owns this land because, you know, it would put his wife and kid in like a good spot, and that he's not immortal, and that no one's immortal in this whole relationship besides Amanda. But that, you know, that's the point. And so then Amanda finds this out, and there's a lot of back and forth with Nick in this episode about like being a thief, not being a thief, doing the right thing, yada, yada, yada. Why does she do what she does? Why doesn't she she's been alive for like over 1,000 years. Why doesn't she do something more noble? And then she like has some other flashbacks just recalling stuff from like the Highlander series. And then talks to him about like, hey man, I'm like a woman in like the 1200s. What was I supposed to do? You had two options. You were going to be like a housewife, or you're going to be like a whore. And so I chose to be a thief. And he's like, oh, blah 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 blah. And it's like, all right, Nick, calm it down. Like, blah blah blah. That's right. So eventually, this guy gets like attacked, and his partner gets killed, and then not Nick, the black guy, and then he's like dying, and so Amanda goes with him to like take the stuff back, and he makes her promise that he's going to take care. She's going to like finally agree to like do the deal that she said to like the other woman that died, is to take care of his family. So she's going to steal this stuff to give it to the family so they can get their parcel of land, and they can get like their just dues or reparations or whatever that they were promised all those years ago when they were freed. There's some conversations about like what's legal and what's not legal, and then Amanda's like, you know, slavery is legal, right? Like, let's not be children when it comes to like this whole concept. And then so then the guy dies, and then Nick agrees to help her steal the stuff. So they steal this stuff, but then like the guy is like they're on the roof of this like auction house, and then the blood from this guy like falls onto the ground, and it's so sensitive that it sets off the alarm, and so then Nick and Amanda have to race back to her place, and then they get like naked and get in the tub. So when the police like break in thinking that it's them because they have their eye on them this whole time, they're like naked in the tub, and then they're like, where were you 15 minutes ago when the place was robbed? I'm like, we were here having sex. And he's like, prove it. And so Nick stands up and is completely naked in this tub, and they're like, all right, never mind. It's like, okay. And then Amanda asks Nick later if he enjoyed the whole situation, and then also about a tattoo on his butt. That wraps up the episode. All right, we have a completely Nick-centered episode with Amanda barely in it. Fantastic. So we start with this guy. He approaches what we later find out is the district attorney here, and he yells at him and then shoots him. And then later on, Nick gets tracked by some rookie police detective or whatever, and he is able to defeat his tracking, and then it's like, what's going on? So then he heads over to the police department to talk to Magus or whatever, his like buddy at the police department. And he's like, oh, you know, so-and-so is released from jail, and he's, you know, he killed the DA, we think, and he's probably after you and something. And meanwhile, all this is going on. Amanda set up some like elaborate lunch for her and Nick as like a date, but then he like blows her off for like 3 hours. And so then he comes to like apologize, and she's like super sassy about all that. And then there's like a drive-by shooting. So this guy who like he's like an ex-baseball player or whatever. He shows up and tries to kill Nick because he's trying to get revenge for everything that went down and whatnot. And then we get a flashback where Nick kind of explains to Amanda, and I think we get a flashback regardless of what happened. So it was like Nick's first case or he's like starting off as a young detective, and there's like this manager at this baseball team, like the Los Angeles Dodgers or whatever. Yeah, what's up? And he finds like a bloody bat in the guy's bag, and there's like a drug test to see that he's like doing some drugs or something. And there's a whole thing where it's like the manager caught him doing drugs and was going to ruin his career, so he killed him. And the guy's like, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. And then Nick like gets him arrested or whatnot, and now he's out for revenge. And we get some other flashbacks of him in prison getting beat up or talking about whatever. And there's some lady he's like was in love with. This wasn't even that long ago. It seems like it was like 6 years ago, which is, I guess he pled for manslaughter, so only got like 5 years or something because they gave it to him or whatnot. And then he has his best friend, other baseball player guy, who ended up being like a World Series champion and super famous and all this stuff and whatnot. And this guy's been sending money to like the convicted criminal guy's girlfriend and whatnot. So then we spend a lot of the rest of the episode. Nick's just kind of tracked this guy down, and then Amanda, because she wants to help her boy, her beau, Nick, she's like doing her own kind of like investigation stuff. And then of course her and Nick get at odds about her interfering with his life, and she says you always interfere with my life, yada 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 yada. We meet like this guy's girlfriend, the convicted guy, and they like hook up and talk about his time in jail, and then he's gonna get like his revenge and peace out of there. And then Nick tracks him down to like the baseball stadium, and there's kind of like a little bit of a shootout. But then the guy, he tells them that he's like, hey, I don't believe you actually did it. Like, I've been reinvestigating the case, and like I want to help you like prove your innocence, but like you killed the DA, and so that's going to be an issue. So you should go back to jail. But it's not going to be it's better to be alive than dead or whatever. And then Nick has like this whole like hypocrisy about how like this guy's a murderer because he killed the DA. He didn't do the first crime, but like this revenge crime, like he did do. So he like, it's kind of ridiculous. And he gets into an argument with like the police detective about like, hey, I think the guy was it's the other baseball guy is actually the one who did all this stuff. And he's like, well, you can't prove it. We're not going to reopen the case. And there's a whole thing where Nick is trying to let this guy like flee and live his life or whatever, even though he's a convicted murderer. And Nick has like a strange sense of like. It's just based on other episodes too. It's like, okay, so this guy did something. He was innocent, but Nick was wrong, and now because Nick was wrong, he wants to make amends by, even though this guy went further on and did do something bad, he wants to let him go free to like make up for the time he was in jail or something. And like, okay, I vaguely get like the logic, but then Nick in other episodes is like, no, if you did something wrong, you should be held fully accountable. It doesn't matter if something, and it's like, okay, well that's not consistent with you're in other episodes. All right, Nick. Continue to be the worst character in the show. And of all of Highlander, to be completely honest. So eventually the guy runs off and like is meeting up, he decides that him and his girlfriend are going to like flee, but he needs money. So he goes to talk to like his best friend, who's the other baseball guy, to get some money. And then the guy, instead of like letting him do that, he makes up some wackadoo story about how like the guy broke in here and was attacking him and he had to defend himself, and then he shoots the guy and kills him. And that's right when Nick like rolls up, and the guy's like holding his dead friend and like crying, and he's like, oh, he was like shooting at me and I don't know, and I had tried to stop him and now he's dead and I'm super sad about the whole situation. And Nick's like, oh man. But again, Nick thinks that guy is actually guilty and that he's the one who killed that guy and the other guy, right? But he didn't kill the DA, so whatever. Anyway, so Amanda goes behind his back and like kind of seduces or tries to get this guy. She's like, oh, I have evidence that you killed the manager, and I want like a payout of like $5 million. And then the guy does the same thing where he takes a bat out and starts smashing stuff around the room and is confessing his crimes essentially about how he's going to kill her, and it's gonna look like it's a robbery because she was like hooking up with this guy from prison or whatever. And then he eventually shoots Amanda, right? But since she's immortal, he's like calling the police to be like, oh, this woman like broke into my house and like I had to shoot her to like defend myself or whatnot. And then he turns around and she's like not there. But of course Amanda was wearing a wire while he was confessing. So she hands that off to Nick, who takes it to like his Magnus, the chief of police or whatever, the detective guy, and then they arrest that guy supposedly. And yep, that's the episode. It's kind of boring. So this next episode's kind of dumb. It involves this soldier, Fielding, who the show starts off and there's this guy, it looks like he's having like PTSD or something, and he's like freaking out seeing soldiers be dead, and he's like I think he's kind of like an older looking dude. Anyway, he's having all these problems and whatnot, and then this captain shows up and like throws him off like out of the 3-story building in Gotham. I mean, they're in Toronto, but the city's never really identified. And kills him. And so the next day, Nick is out with one of his cop buddies. I think his name's Magnus. He showed up before. And he's all like sad, eponymous. And Nick's like, I think you've had enough. Let me help you get home. And he's like, oh, you don't understand. My brother's dead. And I got to find the killer. And, you should come back to the force. And blah, 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 blah. and yada 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 yada. Meanwhile, we see this character Fielding, the captain. He's like doing random stuff. He's like wearing a captain's uniform, and he like wakes up on a couch like a army captain in like modern era ish, like 90s era, like Gulf War. And something. He's thinking about stuff and whatnot, and then Amanda. What's Amanda doing? Amanda's just like putzing around. At some point, Nick's like investigating this guy, trying to figure help. He's like doing his best to do his like PI thing and help this guy out from like drinking too much. And then Amanda like bumps into this Felding guy, and then she like kind of freaks out because we find out that I think they're at the funeral. So that's why this episode's kind of wackadoo. So Nick goes and he's like helping his buddy at like the funeral of like the brother. And then the guy like killed him is there for some reason. And then Amanda's there like separately from all this at like, Claudia? Yeah, from the first episode at her grave. And she's like bringing flowers and talking about how like she's sorry she died and that she's taking care of Nick and all this stuff. And I'm like, who is this Amanda? Like, what is this? And that's like the whole episode. She like keeps doing things that are like what? Like, why is she acting like this? Like, she's like 1,000-year-old immortal. Like, why does she care so much? Because Felding they run. Yeah, pick it up. My son just dropped his milk bottle. Yeah, go pick it up. Okay. So then Felding like shows up because they sense each other and they look, and then she's like, "It's you," and he's like, "Oh, Amanda," something. And we flash back to like, I think it's World War I is what it looks like. And there's this general who's like, "We're pulling out, Corporal. Go take this note to the front and take these jewels that I stole from the Nazis as well." And the Corporal's like, or Felding's like, "Sir," and he's like, "Just do what you're told." So he's headed out, and then Amanda's like around pretending to be like, I don't know, a French lady who's in distress or something. And she like robs one guy, and then she's like robs the corporal and like takes the jewels and stuff. And he's not immortal yet. Like he's immortal, but he's not like he hasn't like turned. He hasn't died the first time or whatever. So Amanda noted, as I have learned, and as we all have learned, mortals, you're born an immortal, and so other mortals can sense you right away. But like it's not the same. Like this, if they meet you, they're like, "Oh, this person's gonna be an immortal," and so she kind of like brushes him off because he'll be fine, no matter what. And so Amanda takes off, but apparently somewhere in that like bag of jewels was like orders to retreat, and because the orders didn't get taken, like all these people died. So like it was like 120 people, which isn't even that much, were like died because Amanda was like selfish and stole the jewels and didn't pull out the orders or anything like that. And so like a lot of the episode is just her guilt around this, and Felding want to get revenge. At the same time, there's like the contrast of this guy just like killing people, but it's like justified killing, I guess, because he kept being a soldier. So he came back from the war and is, supposedly he had died. So his wife like remarried someone else and had a family. And so he couldn't be a part of that. And then he was just kind of like by himself doing immortal stuff. And so he just like joined the military again and kept going on things. And I guess in the reason he killed the guy that at the beginning, the Magnus's brother, I think, or best friend, I think it was a brother. I don't know if it was like a hypothetical brother, like my best friends are like my brothers, right? But he was flying like an A-10, and he like friendly fired like a tank battalion or just a tank or something. Anyway, he killed Felding and like his crew or whatever, like again, which he's a captain in like World War in like the modern era. Like he would not be in a tank, but I don't know. Anyway. But then Army wanted to like cover it up, so they gave him like an award and called him a hero and stuff. But obviously he has a lot of guilt from it, and so then we compare that with like Amanda feeling guilty when she finds out because she stole those orders like 100 years ago. All those guys died, which again is like Amanda really doesn't care, so I don't know why she cares so much here. And there's a lot of back and forth with that. Like they're gonna fight, but then like Nick interferes and like he does, and which is the most annoying thing ever about this show. And then Amanda like has to sneak off, but she like just wants the Felding to kill her. So he sneaks off, or she sneaks off to fight him, but she's not gonna use a sword. She just like gets ready to like Sabuko herself, essentially like kneels down, and then Felding's about to kill her when Nick shows up, and then there's a few conversations Nick has with this guy about like, how is he doing anything better? You know, something. Is this really gonna make you feel better? Or I don't know. It's like really like, oh my gosh, are we having this conversation again? Did we just do this like last episode? And Felding decides to like forgive and forget, I guess, and just wanders off. Because like the guilt Amanda holds is a greater punishment than like cutting off her head or something. Not some nonsensical stuff. I was like, what is this? Like, where's my Highlander? like we're like cool sword fights and like actual moral conundrums and not like whatever this nonsense is. So yeah, that's episode 8 or 9. Episode 8. All right, so episode 9 isn't as wackadoo as episode 8, but it's it was a little like confusing to try to follow the nonsense. First of all, it's another Immortal Highlander episode with absolutely not even fighting, just no immortals at all. Not even involved. It focuses heavily on Burt Myers, I think is what he goes by, who's like Nick's friend that we've never seen for the first 8 episodes of this series, but he's into all he has like a security firm or something, and so he's like, he hires Nick to like do stuff. So right now he's hired Nick to go to Vegas to like pick up a bail jumper. The guy's like a $2 million bail. He needs to go pick him up. So, you know, he's like a bounty hunter. I don't know. Anyway, so he's off doing that. Meanwhile, the guy approaches Amanda because apparently he knows Amanda. And he's like, hey, I need some help with your thing. Something. You know, Nick, he had like a shady past. If you don't help me, like, if you help me, I can like make the stuff disappear. And I thought you were friends and yada, yada, yada. So finally she like agrees to do it. Not necessarily because she believes Nick did anything shady in the back, but just because, I don't know, it's Amanda. She's got nothing else going on. And he's going to pay her a bunch of money. So then they go to break it. The job is to break into like this mansion, and then like she can do whatever she wants, and he has to get like some documentation or something. Supposedly that is going to help Nick out of something. So they go to do that. Like Nick shows up, like at some point it's like, well, I can't talk to Nick about any of this stuff because he's in Vegas. And then like at some point she like walks into his garage and he's like working on bikes, and I'm like, oh, is this something he does? Like this show is so like just all over the place. Like okay, sure. So so she and Bert and there's a whole scene at the beginning with Bert. He's having like some dream or something. And then he wakes up and he's like smoking, and like his girlfriend or whatever, this blonde chick, is like, I'm worried about you. You've been different the last few weeks, and like you just you seem to be having a lot of issues, and you started smoking again, and yada yada. And he's like, I'm fine. Anyway, so they go to this house, and he's like looking around, and then this guy with a shotgun shows up, this old man, and he's like smirking at him, and then Bert shoots him, kills him. And then like says something about like documentation or paperwork, and the guy's like, "Go, you know, fuck yourself" or something. And then Amanda steals like a painting or something, and leaves. And then she sells it to not Bailey. What was that guy's name? The fence guy that pops up every now and then. Not Barley. It's like what was it? I don't remember. Anyway, it starts with a B. Anyway, that guy. So. But then, like, in the morning, Lucy is like, hey, check this out. For some reason, she's like, shows her newspaper of, like, this guy in the house that she was at getting killed. And she's like, they're going to come after you. You better get that painting back. And I'm like, how? What association are they going to make? She literally took it to, like, an illegal fence who's going to, like, sell it to somebody else very secretly and, like, whatever. Anyway, so she goes to Nick, and she's like, I need to talk to Myers. Why? She tells him kind of like, oh, something. And none of it makes any sense. The writing's not very good. And then he's like, I'll take care of it. And so he calls like the girlfriend and is like, where's Myers? Oh, he's doing something. Okay, I'm going to go check that out. And then at some point they all like meet up again. And, you know, Amanda's like really pissed off because now she's tied to this. And he's like, well, you wouldn't have been tied to it if you didn't steal this painting. And he like bought the painting back from the B guy, the fence guy. And then he's going to give it to her to like return so that she's not tied into like this murder situation that like occurred during their like heist or whatever. But then like he gets a call from somebody else who's like a protege. Oh, and so what we find out at some point along the line is that like it's not murder, it was self-defense, because both the guy he killed and Myers were like members of the Stasi before like the wall fell in East Germany. West is that way. East Germany. And so they both like came here to like start a new life, but then this guy was like blackmailing Myers to like work for him still because, you know, and like and fund his like and like use his security firm to like do shady jobs for him, even though like the Russians no longer control Germany or anything, right? So he wants to continue like his like shady business or whatever. And so he had to kill him to get out of that. But then now there's another guy who's like his protege. And so they put together this like bizarre heist. And I was kind of confused because at first they were like arguing about nothing. And then they're like, they have like a security team, his whole security team, and they're wearing like earpieces. And Amanda's dressed up like somebody who's supposed to be somebody else. And they're going to like drop something off, or they're going to trade something. I don't know. It was like so bizarre. But anyway, what ends up happening is that Amanda gets kidnapped instead of like the actual woman that was supposed to, this Indian woman. Okay. No, that's right. So there's this Indian woman who's supposed to be doing something with like a bridge or a dam or something. And that's interfering with the German guy's like plans. And so like the protege wants to continue with the plans. And so he's going to help her. And so, God, he's supposed to be going to like help kidnap this woman so that she can't like go forth with like her thing that she was going to do. But then it ends up being Amanda, and then Amanda gets thrown in like a limousine and driven off, and then the person driving the limousine is dun dun dun, it's the girlfriend. Oh no, she was the betrayer the whole time. And so her and Amanda fight, and then she runs off, and then he goes up to like kill her, and he's like, fuck you lied to me, I'm gonna kill you. And then Nick comes along and is like, no, don't be like that, it's not worth it. And I'm like, Nick is the biggest hypocrite. Like someone killed his like partner, and then he killed them, and then he's like shot other random people, like whatever. He's like a protagonist from like a video game where it's like you're just like massacring soldiers, and then all of a sudden it's like, we can't kill this guy, it's not right. And I'm like, bro, you just killed like 500 people, like what are you talking about? Like the cognitive dissonance, or the what are those? What's that nerd term they use? Fucking ludonarrative dissonance or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's a dissonance thing, right? Where it's like, clearly this guy doesn't give a fuck about killing people until it's like important to the story. And it's like, this is such bad writing. Anyway, he stops him from killing her, and then she runs off, and Amanda like clobbers her with this giant flashlight upside the head. And I'm like, I mean, that might have killed her. Especially because Amanda's like an immortal with like super strength, supposedly. Anyway. And then they all like hang out at the garage afterwards and talk about she's in jail or something. I don't remember. Something happened to her. It doesn't matter. And that's episode 9. Episode 10 is 1,000 times better than the last like 5 episodes, to be honest. First of all, it has immortals in it. Wow. What the fuck? And then it has a sword fight. What? And Amanda actually kills somebody. Wow. Is that the first time this has happened the whole season? No. She's killed somebody. It was like episode 2. But Lord, come on. Like what? Why even have a Highlander show? Anyway, so it starts off and we get this guy who's some sort of like showman, wizard, comedian, something, and he's doing a show. Everyone loves it. He's being followed by his fans, and then he gets shot in the alleyway. Whoa! And it's then the police come and show up, right? And then the next day, Nick is at the police station, and he bumps into Lucy, who's there. And it's Lucy, what are you doing here? Oh, she's shot somebody and had a sword. And he's like, what the fuck, Lucy? And she's like, none of your business. So anyway, so then we switch over to Amanda, and she is doing Tai Chi or something, which would be interesting if it had anything to do with the rest of the episode, but it's just her doing Tai Chi to like do Tai Chi or something. I don't know, right? I don't think they know either. She's just doing it. Like if in the battle at the end, like if you were competent writers in this show, at the end, somehow like her doing this Tai Chi would be related to how she defeats her enemy or something, but it's just something she's doing because it's something she's doing, and then we're moving on with her day. And then we get kind of some... So Lucy shows up with Nick, and she doesn't want to talk about it, and then they're going to talk about it, and things are going to happen, and then we learn that Wilson's back in town. I think that's his name. And who's Wilson? Well, we go back in time 30 years. Right. And so Lucy, when she was young and fucking amazingly hot, like, holy shit, super hot, this actress. Anyway, so super hot Lucy's married to an immortal named Marcus, I think. Yeah, I think it's Marcus. And they're doing a show together, right? And then they do a show, and it's super great, like a magic show or something. And everyone loves it. And then afterwards, Amanda rolls up. It was like blonde hair. Cool. And the guy's like, "Oh, Amanda, how's it going?" And they like do the kiss cheek thing. And then we find out that Lucy's married to this guy, and she's like super jealous of Amanda because and she knows everything about the whole immortal situation. But Amanda's beautiful and she's immortal, and her and Marcus were like lovers at some point. And so Lucy gets super jealous. And so Amanda goes to like talk to Lucy about how it's like, but it's like hundreds of years or whatever. It's not a big deal, and all this stuff. And Lucy's like, "You don't understand something, something, something," and she's super jealous of Amanda. And then Amanda's like, "Okay, well, just so you know, you're great, and I think you did a fantastic job, and you're pretty, and like you won, so there's nothing to be jealous about, right? If that's your concern." And then Amanda is walking off, and then she runs into Wilson, who's another immortal, right? And they like do the kiss cheeks because they were like friends in the past or whatever. And he's another guy who's like an actor, immortal. Anyway, so Amanda leaves, and then Wilson starts hitting on Lucy, and then gets her to like go back to his place with him, and then he tries to have sex with her, but she says no. And then he calls Marcus and is like, "I got your woman," or like he's like, "What's black and blue and something red all over or something? It's your wife, haha." And then he hangs up, and then Marcus comes to fight him, and then he loses and dies. And that's Lucy's story, which is not 100% accurate. So then Nick and Amanda go talk to Wilson, and they're like, "Hey, just leave Lucy alone. It's been like 30 years. She's not over it." And he's being very like nonchalant about the whole situation. He's like, "Oh, whatever. Like, stuff happens, like that's the game." And then Nick gets like super butthurt, and Nick is awful. I hate him as a character. Like every episode he's in it, I'm just like, this guy sucks. Like even when the episode's kind of interesting, like this one, he's like, all he does is like bring it down. Because you have Lucy, who's obviously pissed off about losing her husband to this guy and the whole thing, and then Nick just gets like self-righteous, but you can't just call killing people a game, and yada yada yada. And Amanda's like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, okay, you're right, whatever." And then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Nick, like the fuck is wrong with you? Like shut the fuck up." Anyway, so anyway, so Wilson tells his side of the story, and his side of the story is that he went to the bar, and that he like flirted with Lucy a little bit, and she's like, "No, I'm married," and he's like, "Okay," and then he like walks off, and then she's like, "Oh, you're gonna give up so easily, huh?" Blah blah blah, and she kind of like seduces him, so they end up back at his place, and then they have sex, and then Marcus somehow finds them with like, I don't know, the thing that like registers other immortals, and he comes in to fight Wilson, and then Wilson ends up killing him then, right? That's his story. It goes as self-defense or whatever. And Nick doesn't believe it at all, and he's like, 100% that guy's a liar. And Amanda does like the sensible, like the adult thing, and is like, well, maybe they're both lying. Like maybe there's a midway point. And so Nick goes to like confront Wilson, and Wilson's like, "I don't know why you're here. Like, what your fucking problem is?" And then Nick's like, "You're a liar." And he's like, "What?" Like, the fuck are you talking about? And meanwhile, Amanda is hanging out with Lucy, and she's like, "Did you have sex with Wilson?" And she's like, "Oh, you believe him over me? Oh, I'm a child. I'm going to act like a child. I'm a 60, 70-year-old woman who's going to act like a child." And Amanda's like, "Lucy, I love you. You can tell me anything. I'm not going to judge you," which is awesome. That's the 100% correct way you deal with that situation. And she's like, "Okay, yes, I had sex with him." And then she tells the story, and it's like the midway point where he like hit on her, and then she was like down for it because he was saying all the nice things that she wanted to hear, and she was super jealous of Amanda. And so they had sex, and then she felt bad about it. And then I'm trying to remember how the husband actually got over there. Oh, and then he like called. So then he did call Marcus afterwards and tell him that he killed it, like the wife was dead, and so he came over, and then they fought and he killed him or something. I don't know if they even fought, to be honest. He might have just like surprised him. And so Amanda's like, "All right, well, let's go take care of this." And there's a couple different scenes where Lucy like tries to shoot Wilson again, and then she gets kidnapped because she's like, "I'm just gonna go and like let this thing drop, and like it's not a big, I don't need to kill people." And so it finally seems like Lucy's like done with the situation, but then she gets kidnapped by Wilson, and so now Amanda's like, "All right, fuck this guy," and so she heads over to the theater with Nick to rescue Lucy, and so Nick grabs Lucy and heads out, and then Amanda has like a pretty good battle with Wilson, and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" Like I know Amanda can fight because we've seen her fight in Highlander, but it's nice to have her like actually fight in this fucking show for like the second time in 10 goddamn episodes. It's like halfway over. Anyway, so she fights and she ends up winning, and that's cool, and then we get like the quickening, and then Lucy's like, "Oh, Nick, I truly loved Marcus," and I was like, that's a weird thing to say, I guess, in this. Like, okay. It's like the writers on this, man, are just not up to par with the Highlander. That or they're just like phoning it in or whatever. Anyway, but that was episode 10. It was leagues above the last like literally like 5 episodes. So we get another fun episode here. This one involves an immortal, actually, in a battle, but no quickening because Nick. This guy, he's kind of annoying. Anyway, Amanda's all distraught and sad because her life has no meaning and she needs something exciting going on. And so her and Lucy like banter about that for a bit. The episode starts. We see this like Irish guy delivering a meal to somebody, and the guy's like, "Where's the normal guy?" And he's like, "Oh, he's sick or something. Here, eat this, laddie." And then he eats it, and then he dies. And the guy steals some stuff from him. This guy's an immortal. He's a thief like Amanda. He does a lot of changes, but unlike Amanda, he's not honorable. He's like Amanda in like the alternative timeline that Duncan was trying to avoid with his like it's a good life situation. And because he does a lot of killing people to get what he wants and to get stealing and stuff. But he knows Amanda from back in the day. And so then so he steals his stuff, and then Nick gets pulled in because of a buddy of his who's like investigating it. And it's like I think this one's not the police. It's like a private security issue with his buddy. So then Amanda like comes home from something, or no, she's just chilling with Lucy, complaining about life, and then they get like a ring on the door, and it's a brand new motorcycle. Wow, and like a love letter, and Amanda's super excited about that. Nick shows up, and they banter about whatever nonsense they banter about in every episode, and and then we see this, and then Nick's like investigating this guy and sees him like with he's doing some like good police work or private investigation work. Meanwhile, Amanda bumps into this dude, and it's like, oh hey, it's my old friend from this thing, and they like talk. He calls her princess, and they talk about like all her past deeds. We see the shot of her like dancing for like the caliph or the sultan or whatever from one of the season 6 or I think it was season 5 episodes. And, you know, he wants her to help him steal a diamond. And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, I will give you $1 million right now. And she's like, woo, because Lucy reveals that they're having some money problems because Amanda's not stealing as much anymore. So she has to heavily invest in like Tokyo, like Japanese stocks because it's like the 90s and Japan was real hot before it kind of crashed out. So... and then so she's out hanging out with that guy and being very flirty, and he's being very flirty, and they're talking about stealing diamond stuff. Meanwhile, Nick shows up at Amanda's house to like ask her about something, and Lucy's like, well, she's not here. You should come back later. And he's like, no, I want to talk to her now. Just wait. And she's like, you probably shouldn't wait. And then finally, Lucy gets Nick to leave, but right as he's leaving, Amanda's making out with this guy, Vic, in front of the door. And so then he gets a little jealous, obviously. And then they have like an awkward elevator moment when they both leave. And then Lucy and Amanda are talking about the whole situation and what's she going to do. Is she going to steal the diamond or not? Obviously, she's going to go steal the diamond. Nick talks to Amanda about how this guy's like a killer. And then she's like, I don't believe you. But then she asks Vic about it, and he gets super offended, being like, how dare you? You know, I expect this from mortals and their small pea brains. But from you, another fellow immortal, I don't know. It just makes me question all these things. And Amanda's like, all right, let's go steal this diamond. So Vic obviously doesn't like Nick fooling around in like with his girl or his schemes, and so he sets up like a bomb in Nick's car, and Nick is about to get blown up when he goes to like check on his car because it's making like it's doing the beeping thing when like you set off the tiny alarm. But then he gets a call at the last second from some guy, and he's like, hey man, I can't hear you, hold on 1 second. So he steps away from the car, and then it blows up. What? And so then Nick like recovers from that, and he runs over to Lucy and like tells her so Lucy can call Amanda and warn her because she's out doing the robbery or whatnot. But then Amanda's not listening because she's like, I'm on a job, I can't talk right now. But Lucy says something, and then Amanda calls Vic out, and he's like, who cares? They're just mortal, something. Let's just get this done with. And she's like, no, I don't like when people fight my friend or do mean things to my friends. So they start sword fighting, and it seems like Amanda's doing fine. But Nick like intervenes as he loves to do, so we can't have like fun fights, and Amanda can't get stronger, right? Which I'm not a big fan of this whole concept. Like I think she's killed like one immortal, and we're in episode 7. Like it's kind of ridiculous. Like what am I watching? Like I don't mind occasionally, but come on, man. It's like 1/3 of the season she's killed one guy. Like get out of here. Anyway, so Nick comes crashing in on the motorcycle that Vic gave Amanda to like interfere, and then like shoots the guy and then chases him down, and they have like a gunfight, which is far less exciting than a sword fight. And eventually the other guy who hired Nick in the first place like shoots the guy in the chest, and he falls into the river. And then Nick's like, man. And the guy's like, don't worry about it, he's dead. And Nick's like, good luck finding the body. And then Nick and Amanda, or Nick's like checking out his blown up vehicle, and he's all sad eponymous about it. And Amanda rolls up on the bike, and he's like, she's like, this is yours. Thanks for, let's call it like a reconciliation gift or whatever. And he like, you know, they like have banter about how like, but the headlights broke in and something. And it's like, yeah, you drove it through a window, you asshole. And then Nick like gets serious, and he's like, is this what it's like to like, you know, always have somebody over your back or like be worried that someone's going to show up? And she's like, yep, welcome to my world. Silliness. All right. So episodes 12 and 13 are a two-parter, and they bring back Joe Dawson and the Watchers. Heck yeah. So it starts off and Nick's doing some stupid Nick stuff that I don't care about, but then he sees someone get like jacked and like carried off into a van or something, and then he pulls a gun on this guy, and then Joe pulls a gun on him, and he's like, "Hey, back off!" Blah 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 blah. We then get to take Joe back with Nick to Amanda, and they chit chat, and they're old friends, and they're Watchers, and they just like spill the beans with Nick, and it's like, whatever. What are you gonna do? We found out that Joe's tracking some guy, and this guy was like in ancient China when like Amanda was there, and he taught her like all these things about like the fan dance and chi and the sword dagger fighting thing or whatever. But then he was very possessive and very much like an asshole, and he would just like do whatever he wanted. Like he treated himself like a god. And so when Amanda came to terms and kind of like she like took off, I don't think they actually fought from what I remember, but they definitely did not agree. But now he's hanging out here. He's got a nightclub here. So Amanda and Nick go check that out, and they speak to him, and he's got this immortal lover lady. And so Nick and the immortal lady like dance while Amanda and this guy catch up, and he's like offers to let her come back and do like his fold, and he's doing well and doing all this stuff, and Amanda can do better than like hanging out with some mortal a-hole, and she gets very defensive about that. Anyway, they're like no blah 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 blah, and then they kind of separate. We find out that this guy is like, he does these like tricks, kind of like that guy in season 6 of Highlander with like the ambassador's son or whatever, where he pretends to get like hit by cars, or he's in a car accident, or gets ran over by a money truck, and then he like robs them, right? And that's like that's how he has all his money. Like these clubs are just kind of like whatever, I guess. Anyway, there's some like back and forth with like Nick trying to get him arrested for doing illegal stuff and being very protective of Amanda, and Amanda being protective of him. And at some point she like kisses him because she actually has true feelings for him. And Joe's trying to like chit chat with them about the whole situation. And then the guy's like, "I'm going to Paris. I'm tired of this crazy nonsense. So you go take care of Nick," right? To his like immortal lover lady. And so Amanda catches her first, and they have a fight. And then Amanda kills her, obviously, because this is only halfway through the season. But she has Joe tell Nick that Amanda didn't make it back. And so then Nick like freaks out, and he wants to get revenge on this guy. And so he heads off to Paris, which is where this guy went. And then Amanda comes out and finds out that Nick went off to Paris to fight this guy. And she's like, "Joe, how could you?" And he's like, "I didn't do jack." And she's like, "No, I gotta go." And then she goes, and then the guy gets word that his lover like got killed, and Amanda's probably going to be on her way or whatever. So that's the end of episode 12. So it's great seeing Joe back. He's not in episode 13, but you know, it's fun having him there for a minute doing his like Watcher stuff. I thought we were going to have the return of Duncan, but we don't, because at the end of, I think it's the beginning of this episode or the end of the last episode, this guy gets accosted by one of the immortal guy's goons, and then he gets saved by somebody. And he wakes up, he's being treated by this like sexy Vietnamese like doctor or Chinese doctor or whatever, and then it's, hey, it's what's his name? I don't remember his name. It's his like homie who was a security fund who was like a Stasi in Germany. He's in Paris because there's jobs here, and he's like rescuing people or whatever. And so he's just hanging out. He's got like this abode, and so they start working. He knows about this other immortal guy as well, and so they're kind of like checking him out. He's got like a whole nother crew. The immortal guy's got like a whole other crew, like this blonde chick and this other stone face looking dude, and they do the same thing. They rob like cars and stuff. And so there's like a whole thing where Amanda's here. She's looking for Nick. She thinks he's dead because Nick sees her and thought she was dead. And so he plays a trick on her, and then they like make up. And then there's like this Chinese doctor lady who gets assaulted by like the immortal guy because he's also looking for Nick because he wants a revenge on Nick or Amanda or both or something. And then they go track him down in his new club, and then he like runs off because they have like the French police show up to like bust him for all his criminal activity with like the connections through like Bert, I want to say his name is. Like Bert Wilson, I can't remember. I'm going to just call him Bert. And so there's a lot of that. And then Nick and Amanda are trying to like figure out some other way to like get this guy to track him down so Amanda can finish him off and take care of him. And then Bert gets kidnapped and his building gets burned down by some of the Immortals' goons. And so they eventually like go and track him down to like his new place, wherever he's at. And so Amanda and they go to the catacombs at some point, and they're chasing him around there because apparently he's doing a lot of legal stuff through the catacombs, which again is like the fun thing in France, right? With all the skulls and crap in the sewers. Anyway, so then Amanda goes. So then they get there. They finally track him down. They rescue the friend. Then Nick has like a punch fight with like this goon, and they rescue Bert. And then Amanda has a sword fight with the immortal guy, and eventually she kills him, so they win, and everything's great. And then we get like later on, after all this stuff's kind of wrapped up, we see that Amanda and Bert have like gone in together to buy this guy's old club because now he's dead, and so there's no it's for sale. And they're like, "Hey, we're gonna stay here in Paris and run things." And it's like, yes, the mid-season tradition of going to Paris because of like Gaumet Television production company is like there, and they film half the stuff in like Canada and half the stuff in France, it seems. So that's fun. So now we're in the Paris arc of Raven. And I like Bert, so maybe if he's around more, this show will be more tolerable instead of just Nick, who... It was great seeing Joe back. He's such a better side character. Nick is so awful, and I guess they're kind of in love or something and kind of admitted it or whatever. Anyway. Who cares? Anyway. In episode 14, we get a little more Bert Myers? Yeah, I think it's Myers, not Williams. Anyway, we get some more Bert action. Yeah, boy. So there's a whole story. This one heavily involves a prior like case, quote unquote case, like minor case or something that Nick was involved with in New York. They're in Paris right now, so there's that. But this case that took place in New York, Nick was on like a date with some broad. And, he like heard a gunshot or something and he's like, gotta go. And she's like, tee-hee, doctors and police officers always on call or some nonsense. And it's like, if you weren't hot, lady. So he runs off and he sees like some shady business going on and it's Myers. That's right. This is where he meets the guy. And it's like, hooray, this is, Myers is like, oh, I'm at the NSA. There's no body. If you got to turn the other cheek and not say anything or we're going to get you arrested. And that's how they became best friends forever or something. I don't know. They seem to just like argue. And then it was like the end of the flashback. And I was like, okie dokie. But the guy's back. That's right. And he's gunning for Myers and he's gunning for Nick Wolf. And because he's an immortal, Amanda's obviously got to be involved with this situation. So unlike the previous episode, or not the previous, but like the one with the baseball guy there was no immortal business going on there whatsoever. This is a very similar episode where it involves Nick predominantly, but like there's actually a reason for Amanda to be there, and then she actually fights and kills this guy. So that's nice. I mean, he's only a 4-year-old immortal, and there's no mention of who trained him how to sword fight or how he figured anything out. But he's here in Paris, and he's here to get revenge. And it seems at first that he's trying to kill this actress lady that Myers has been paid to protect. And then one of his agents gets killed by this guy. And then we find out this guy was like a rogue agent who worked for Myers in the NSA or whatever before he went and did his own private practice thing. And so they had to like dispose of him. And then his ex-partner, Rachel, is another one of these. She's around. And she's part of this. She joined Myers' group and is part of like the bodyguard situation with this actress. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of out of breath. I don't know what my deal is. Okay. And so he goes back to like meet with his lover, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're alive! How?" And it's like, "Oh, but Myers killed me, and then buried me, and it was a shallow grave, so I was able to climb my way back out, and I'm here to get revenge, and I want you to get revenge with me." And she's like, "Oh no, I can't get revenge." Meanwhile, the actress lady is trying to bang Nick, and then Amanda's around, and Amanda's like lying to her about stuff, and then she has like a whole breakdown with Nick about how, because Nick gets pulled into like bodyguarding her, because originally they think this guy's trying to go after her, and then there's like the immortal thing, and then they figure out it's this other guy, and he's actually after Myers, and so they got to go protect Myers, and then Myers can't know about the immortals and stuff, and Amanda's like, why don't we tell him, don't you trust him? And Myers is like, Nick's like, I don't trust Myers, I trust him with my life, but I don't trust him with like your immortal life and all that stuff, because he's kind of shady, which is true. Anyway, so there's a lot of like schemes and scams and stuff going on, but eventually he tries to gun down Myers again, but then they save him, and then they track him down, or Amanda tracks him down, and they have a conversation, and he's like, I'm not going to leave him alone because, the things they did were jacked up, and she's like, you're an immortal now, just let it go, and like, if I can help you like move on with your life, and he's like, no, I refuse. And so he tries to kill like Nick again, I think he tries to kill Nick, and then Amanda's like, that's my man. And so then she excuse me. So then she tracks him down, and then they have like a sword fight, and then Nick does his thing where he like interferes even though he's not supposed to interfere, because that's how the game's played, and which is good because Amanda's about to beat this guy, and then she shoots him, or he shoots her, right, which is like against the rules, but like it is what it is. It's not like against like the big rules that cause like Mount Vesuvius like fighting on holy ground or whatever. But it's against like the little rules like the honor code and whatnot. And then Nick shows up just in time to shoot him, and then Amanda takes his head because, fuck that guy. And then it's ta-da! And then there's like this whole overarching thing where she was going to go to like Fiji, but then she doesn't go to Fiji, and then something Fiji, and Fiji. And that's the end of episode 14. So with that, we say goodbye to our friend Myers once again. They ship him out of there, even though he bought a club with Amanda, and she's ready to run that club, but that's how we're going to do these things, I guess. The next episode is actually a good Highlander episode. Because it focuses on Amanda, and it focuses on immortals and immortal stuff, and there's flashbacks and everything, and there's like schemes and plans and all sorts of shady stuff going on, so much better. So it starts off with this guy trying to hire, well, there's like some sort of robbery or something, and then Nick gets hired by this chemist to get this bomb supposedly back from this lady, and then he's like checking it out, and then Amanda's like looking over his shoulder to see what he's doing, and she recognizes the lady, and then we go back in time to like the French Revolution, and we see that she was boinking some young nobleman, and then the revolutionaries showed up and like shot him, and then they're going to take her and put her under Madame Guillotine and whatnot, and then Amanda, who recognizes that this one crazy revolutionary lady is like also an immortal, like begs for her life essentially, and is like, look, I grew up in the poors as you did, and like the nobles mistreated me, but like, you know, it's like, and 1,000 years later, you kind of like move on past like mortal concerns and all this stuff. And like at the end of the day, like these revolutions don't really help anybody, which is based and factual. Revolutions never help anybody at the end of the day. Because, you know, people in power are always going to be people in power, and they're always going to abuse their power. And, you know, honestly, sometimes monarchies are just better than republics or whatever else. It just depends. It depends who's running the show. Republics tend to be a lot more corrupt, because there's not just like one person you're trying to hang with. You got like a whole, you know, cadres of different people and groups and stuff. So there is something pure and better about like an emperor or a king or somebody, if they're righteous and they care about the people and stuff, which is like, you know, that's the crapshoot there. But these large groups of like bureaucrats always hate the public and always just want to get reelected. So they'll do anything to do that because that's their primary concern, not actually helping people. And that's a fact. So anyway, finally, she's about to get like beheaded, and she's freaking. Oh no! So then we get a backstory of her about how she was like a poor, and then she got like attacked by these muggers and woke up like immortal, and then Rachel found her, and then Rachel took care of her, and she was a noble woman, and it kind of changed her view on like being noble. And we got like some of her story about how she was taught everything and then sent out into the world, and she's like, I'm not ready, and then she kept like bringing people back for Rachel to like fight for her, and Rachel's like, no, you got to fight your own battles, girl. Like, stop being crazy. And so that was nice. We got a little bit more about her. We got like tiny bit of her in the regular Highlander series, because they both knew Duncan as well. And this is like, you know, 1,000 years ago when Amanda was like really struggling with stuff and had just become an immortal. So that was fun. This lady, so then Amanda goes to talk to her and it's like, hey, why are you stealing bombs and stuff, or like whatever? And she's like, oh no, what I stole was like this guy taking some of my blood. And my blood was good. He was going to do research and it was going to affect all the immortals. So I took it back and I was going to like empty it out into like the river to have it be gone and not have to deal with it anymore or whatever. And then she goes and talks to Nick about that. And then Nick confronts that guy and he's like, no, that's not what it is. I also lied too. It's not really a bomb either. And then before he could tell Nick like what's actually going on, he gets shot by like one of this lady's like goons. And we find out she's not actually trying to do anything. She's like working for some Russian or something, or terrorists. She's just trying to get money. Like, she's not trying to free the people or anything or help the people. Obviously, like that's the tale's oldest time, right? Like, you're all good in revolution until like things get a little tough, and then you want to do your own thing, and you know, got to take care of yourself and whatnot. And so her and Amanda go back and forth, and then at the same time that Nick is trying to talk to this chemist guy and figure stuff out, she breaks into like her place and opens a safe and finds like the truth, right? That it's not, it's like some other, it's not her blood, and it's not the bomb, and it is some chemical agent that could cause like a lot of damage to a lot of different people in the area. And that's, Amanda finally goes and confronts her, and we have like a good old fashioned like immortal off where they actually fight and she actually kills her, and we don't have Nick like shooting people or interfering or being an asshole or anything. So very good. It was very good. I very much enjoyed this episode. It's like one of the 3 episodes I've enjoyed in the first 15. So 1/5. I guess there's worse shows out there. I mean, the rest of the show is just like meh. It's not bad. It's just kind of like like I could watch something better. But we're getting there. Got like 7 more episodes left, so we'll power through. Episode 16 here is pretty good. It's shocking. We had 2 episodes in a row that were pretty good. They have to do with immortals and like fun stuff, and we get flashbacks and all that stuff. And this one focuses heavily on Jade, who is kind of like a sisterly rival of Amanda. They're both immortals who've been around for quite some time, and they're both like thieves. They're both like pretty. They both like get involved in kind of some crazy stuff, and we get some backstory with them in doing something in London in like the 1700s, I think, where they're both going after diamonds and they're like working together and doing all this stuff. And, you know, they have like a friendly rivalry and whatnot. Anyway, we get to her in a second. It starts off with Nick doing a job. He's like literally just delivering a painting from like one side of Paris to the other or something. And he's getting paid like a whole bunch of money to do it. And this painting is worth like $20 million. So they go to deliver it, and then it like disappears. And so everyone blames Amanda because she's got a history with thieving and all this stuff. And the guy who paid them to like deliver the painting for him is like super upset at Nick. And, you know, it's a whole thing with that. And then somehow Jade is like pulled into the whole situation as well. It's because like she's actually trying to steal the painting, but like the painting it's like disappeared or something. I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of back and forth about all that. We do spend a decent amount of time in the past. And then what we eventually find out is that the guy who... Oh, and Liam returns. Liam, who is the best. Liam is the immortal who's like the priest. He's kind of like the Darius, but he's younger and like likes to play basketball. So he's around, and so Amanda talks to him about Jade and how her and Jade have had this like fun rivalry for like decades, and he's like, or hundreds of years, and he's like, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm out of this. I don't want any part of this. But they hang out and they drink and they like go to lunch and like just have some like fun banter about like what's going on. So again, there's the Trevor guy who's got the painting stolen, and then he wants it back. But in reality, when they get it back for him, he's upset because he was trying to keep the painting and get like a forgery or something. But like the actual, so there's like some interest, and then we get some more interesting back lore. Because Amanda was like banging the guy who made the painting originally, and she got him like too drunk one night when he was like finishing the painting. And so when they came the next day to take it to like be sold to like whatever back in like whatever 1800s or something, that she signed it with his name. So the actual painting has like a fake name. And so she brings this up with Nick as like, hey, I don't think that's the right painting. So there's like a lot of like so essentially this guy Trevor is trying to pull some sort of maneuver where he has like the fake painting, not the real painting, and he's trying to, you know, get it moved and then get it assessed and then blame like essentially Amanda and Nick for like stealing it or having lost it or something. It's this whole crazy nonsense. But it's fun. And at some point Jade and Amanda come to blows because Jade's trying to hit on Nick, and then Amanda gets like, why is that? And then like Jade's trying to steal the painting or do something, and so they fight, and then Amanda like stabs her but doesn't cut off her head and is like now we're even, or like get out of town and leave Nick alone. Which is super delightful. And then they get to a point where they realize that this Trevor guy is going to try to backstab them and all this stuff. So they come up with like some more heist shenanigans. It's delightful. This episode's super fun. And so they break in to like steal the painting, to like switch it with the actual painting, because now they have both paintings. And then Trevor like they get caught and they just pretend like they're just hanging out. And so then Trevor's like, get out of my house, whatever. And so he goes to leave, and then Nick and Amanda like kidnap him and then go meet up with Jade, and they like knock him out because she wants like revenge on Nick, or she wants revenge on Trevor for some reason. That's how she's like pulled in this whole situation. And so then they re-break into like his museum and like put like the real painting in there, because if he has like the real painting in there, then they're gonna like he needs a fake painting so he can get like insurance money or something. It's like so ridiculous. But anyway, they essentially get him to a position where he has both paintings there, and so it's like he was stealing his own painting, and so he goes to jail, and then Jade and then there's like a wager. Like Jade comes back to help Amanda because Amanda essentially sells Nick off to her for like an evening, and so she takes him out to eat like a fancy meal, and she's like, "Why don't you come hang out with like a hot thief like me?" And he's like, "I already got a hot thief," and she's like, "Tee hee." And then while that's going on, Amanda's like hanging out with Liam, talking about like the whole deal and whatnot. So that's the episode. That's episode 16, I think. Man, this second half of the season's really starting to pick up. So we got another immortal, another story, and Bert. I keep calling him Blake or Bert. I don't remember. Myers is back. And then also we meet Derek Markham. Who's Derek Markham? Derek Markham is the husband of Amanda from back in like the 1800s. So they were pulling some scams together. They were like robbing stuff and doing all this stuff, kidnapping people and getting ransoms and whatnot. And Amanda was like game for it, but she's, as long as there's no death or whatnot. But Markham has loose morals. So he ends up killing the guy they kidnapped and then got the ransom for, and then he was supposed to release. And then when Amanda finds out, she has a real crisis of consciousness and turns him into the police. So he spent a whole time in the police and then forward into the present. So what's Myers doing here? So Derek is involved in some sort of shady thing, kind of like the same thing. He's trying to like ransom, or his crew like kidnaps this lady, and so Myers and Nick, like with their like crew, they rescue this lady, and then it gets pulled in that Derek's there, and he's like, he wants Myers dead because Myers cost him a whole bunch of money, so he wants him brought in and killed, right? So that's how he gets involved. And then while they're investigating this guy some more in this place where they rescued the kidnapped girl, Myers finds an old picture of Amanda and the guy and Derek, and he's like, this looks exactly like Amanda. So he goes and gets it like the photograph gets, or whatever, he gets it like verified that it's real, and then he's like, then he has a lot of suspicions about Amanda, and is she involved with this, and is she honest? And him and Nick go back and forth about that. And Nick doesn't want to tell her that she's like immortal because he doesn't want to give away the game. And then Nick kind of tells Amanda what's going on because Myers sends Amanda the photo, and then she kind of freaks out and goes to talk to Liam about it. And she goes finds Derek, and they get into like a weird argument about stuff. And then she's like, I gotta kill him, but I don't want to, and I never got divorced because I just put him in jail. And there's like a whole thing with that. And so they get to a point where they're gonna fight. And so Amanda's like very unsure that she can beat this guy because he's just a better fighter than she is. And so they fight, and then she loses, about to lose her head. But then one of Myers' men's like finds them and shoots the guy, and then he goes up and stabs that guy, and Amanda like pieces out of there, and then she's like really freaking out. And so she later on tells Nick about everything, and then she's talking to Liam, and what she wants to do is reveal to Myers about everything that's been going on. And that's particularly true because as Myers is trying to like figure stuff out, and he's accusing Amanda, and Amanda's like calling, trying to be like, no, and Nick's trying to say no, and they're still trying to hunt down this Derek guy, and Derek's trying to like maneuver around to get Myers, but also kill Amanda, and now also Nick. Stupid. Oh goodness. Okay, so then at some point they see they're walking on a bridge, and she's about to tell him stuff, and then he gets shot, or Myers gets shot by Derek, and then Nick fires at him and kills him, and then as Myers is like about to pass out, he sees Derek get up, get in his like getaway car and drive off. And so later on at the hospital, Amanda's about to tell him everything. In fact, she does. She's like, no more lies, Amanda. Tell me exactly what's going on. And she's like, I'm over 1,000 years old. I did this. I dated this guy. I hung out with Mozart, but he loved music more than women. Blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, all right, I got to go finish this off. And so she heads off to fight Derek for realsies this time. And Myers is like, I don't believe any of that stupid crap. She's a real good liar, but that's stupid nonsense. Like, I'm not retarded. Nick's like, okay. So he goes, it's like, I gotta go. So he catches with Amanda, and she's like, I feel better telling him everything. And he's like, he doesn't believe you at all. And she's like, what? She's like, whatever, I gotta go. And so she goes off to fight Derek, and oh no! So right around that time, she sees like Derek pulls up some of his cronies, and so the cronies run inside to like finish off Myers. So Nick chases after them so he can fight them, and so we get like a gunfight and like a battle with him in like a warehouse by the hospital or something. And then Derek and Amanda fight, and Amanda's able to use trickery. Like she gets disarmed again, which is what happened in the first battle. But then they're in like some train yard, and so she grabs his foot with like a thing, kicks his sword away, goes to get her sword, and cuts his head off, finally ending his life. And at the same time, Nick is able to defeat all the goons, so they save Myers. And then like, yay, everyone won. And then, part of the premises with this whole episode, I think it was this episode, it might have been the last episode, is that it's her birthday. And so she wants to celebrate the birthday. Yeah, it was this episode. So she wants to celebrate her birthday, and so they have like a big celebration at the end for her birthday, being like 1,000 whatever years old. So good stuff. All right, so as we continue the second half excellence, because we have more Immortals and more Immortal stuff, and not just like Nick doing Nick stuff. Nick's in this, and he's kind of annoying, but he's less annoying because there's another character to be annoying, which is better because Nick is one of the two main characters. And him being annoying is just, I don't know, it's not working out. So I'm glad whatever they made that mid-season decision change, which is good. And this is something kind of as a side comment. I know you're probably going to hear some crazy stuff in the background. I'm driving with my kid. But because these modern the point I was going to make is that a lot of these modern streaming shows, they like film the whole thing and then they put it out there, and then people like episode 1 are like terrible, and so now it's like, oh, we're screwed, we don't know what to do, we can't like adjust. But when you have these like 24 episode seasons or 22 or whatever, I mean, they're being filmed like almost as they're like coming out, and so you can make a lot of changes in the writing. Like they essentially start releasing these episodes before the whole season's filmed, which is like the smart way to do things, because if for some reason you've totally like misread the situation, now you have the opportunity to make adjustments in like the writing and all that other stuff, when before, well, like the way they do things now, it's like, it's insane. Like in this 5-year turnover cycle, or like, you know, it's like, oh, you're going to release like one season of like 5 episodes every like 2 or 3 years. It's like, what are you doing? Like what? Like you have studios pumping out like NCIS New Orleans, NCIS Los Angeles, NCIS the Moon, like 5 or 6 seasons of this thing, like churning like over 100 episodes just for like this one series essentially, and like every episode is better than most of these streaming shows. Like I watched the first 6 seasons of CIS, and I would rather go watch that whole thing again, which like these are just like Monster of the Week episodes with like a loose overarching plot, then turn on like The Acolyte or Stranger Things, or like it's way more entertaining to like an extreme degree. So it's just like mind-boggling how they've let themselves just be like, it's not even like if they were making bad shows or shows I'm not into, like Will and Grace. I was never into that. I watched it like once and I was like, no thank you. But they still like produced a bunch of episodes and a bunch of seasons, and like people like that show. Like, I don't know. Anyway, this is like a random tangent inside this like hour and a half long video, but getting back to it. All right, so this one stars Jeremy Dexter as the Immortal of the Week, along with I might have written his name down. There's some cop who's like a homicide detective who's like involved in like their capers because his brother like killed himself after Dexter like robbed a casino. I don't care. It's not important. We'll call him Angry Detective or Homicide Detective. So the episode starts off, and Nick and Amanda have been hired to like protect this casino. I don't know if it's a legal casino or what. I'm going to assume not, because the police get involved. So it's just like some random casino in Paris. They've been paid. It's probably the Montreal casino, to be completely honest. All this stuff's filmed in Canada. Anyway, so they got paid to protect this casino. So they do a really bad job because it gets robbed. And Nick immediately knows that something's up. We know something's up because as like Amanda's laying there passing out from like the sleep gas, and the thing about this Jeremy guy, the other immortal, is that he doesn't kill, just like Amanda. And they have a history. So he sees her and he's like, oh, hey. And so he doesn't take her diamonds, right? And then Nick makes some comment about like, hey, your diamonds didn't get stolen. What's up with that? And she's like, none of your business. And he's like, you knew this guy. There's an immortal thing. Something's happening. And she's like, well, maybe, teehee. And so they're investigating this whole situation, and then they like get the jewels. Oh no! And then so Nick and Amanda go to this guy. Oh no! Amanda goes to talk to this guy because she knows him, and they have a history. So their history is like back in like the 1500s with like Mary Queen of Scots. She was like Mary Queen of Scots was like killing Protestants, which good for her. That was always the right decision. So she's killing Protestants, and as time goes on, that Amanda and Deck and Jeremy show up to like sell her some like relics, but then they also like rob her because one of the things she does, like the main reason she was killing Protestants was because everyone hated Protestants, but also because some of them had a lot of wealth, and so she could steal that under the justification that like they're offending God, right? So good on her, smart. And so they're doing all that, and then they kind of almost get caught, and then they run away, and that's like how they know each other from back in the day, and they've seen each other in a few hundred years or whatnot. But no, so Jeremy's like, nowadays he's doing the same kind of like scam. He's like robbing casinos and like other stuff, and he's like very like cordial about the whole situation. He's not like killing people necessarily or whatnot. But then this detective, Nick does like an investigation of him because he's like around and he's kind of sketchy, and so he discovers that this guy is a homicide detective, right? And then it's like, why is a homicide detective here at this like casino robbery? And then so Nick confronts him, and then he tells like this stupid story about how his brother was like, his wife left him because he like lost all his money, and he was like a real dingbat or whatever. And then at some point, the guy like he stole some money from like his job to go gamble in a casino, and then when he was gambling in a casino, he won a bunch of money, like 12 million francs or whatever. And then, but then the casino got robbed by Jeremy, right? And then because he lost all this money, he lost his job, and never got his wife back, he ended up like killing himself. And then he has like some more sad story bullcrap about like his parents like killed themselves too for some reason. I don't know. I kind of checked out when he was talking, and I was like, he's like a terrible. It's like I don't feel any sympathy towards you and your brother's situation. Like your brother sounds like a real asshole, and like him killing himself is like it is what it is. Like that is exactly how I feel about it. Like meh, whatever. Anyway. So then Amanda tries to warn him about Nick and about this other guy, but then Nick followed him, and then so he followed Amanda, and so he takes off, and then they get like the jewels back and all the money from the casino, which is like good because that was their job. Even though Amanda didn't want it, that was not her purpose, and she apologizes to the guy later. She's like, I didn't mean to do that. Nick's just he's like a little hound. He won't like leave me alone. And so in recompense, Jeremy wants her to help steal from something else, and so they go to rob that, and then like Nick shows up again, and he's like, really, Amanda? And she's like, no, I swear I'm like doing this on purpose. Like he's like a lost puppy dog. And so we got like a repeat of that whole situation, and then Jeremy gets like really pissed off at Amanda, and it's like maybe they should fight, maybe they're not, and Amanda's like, no, come on, buddy, just stop doing stuff. And then like at some point someone gets killed by like one of Jeremy's like sidekicks or something, and that makes Amanda look really bad in front of Nick, and it's like, and it was like an accident, right? But now this guy's like out for blood, and it's like he's either gonna get Amanda or he's gonna get this Jeremy guy. And so they talk, and then Nick and Amanda talk, and then Amanda and Jeremy talk, and they end up putting together this like skit for this gentleman to like observe. And the skit is that Amanda's gonna like attack this guy, and he's going to pull a sword on Amanda, and then Nick is going to like shoot him, and then he's going to like fall into the river or something, and then he's going to be dead. And so the guy's going to be satisfied that like revenge was gotten, because that was like his whole point, is that he wanted this guy dead. And so he's dead, but he's not really, because he's an immortal. And then Amanda's like, you need to get out of here, and she gives him like a bunch of gems or money or something so that he can like flee Paris and like live somewhere else for a while and like stay low. And there's a whole thing about like how he got stuck in Paris for like a couple hundred years because he didn't have enough money, and he kept trying to get out of there, but like he needed like a lot of money apparently. He couldn't just like wander out of there. I don't know. It's like very hand wavy about why he's like still hanging around this area for so long. But yeah, that's good. That was episode 18. It was pretty good. And my phone locked, so I gotta unlock it, and then I can stop. Hey, we got another Immortal episode. Golly, fantastic. We're gonna end this strong, I guess. After the thing got canceled, there's not more than one season. And this time, the Immortal is Reknoff. Reknoff, not to be confused with my favorite Eastern European, Rezanov, from the Call of Duty Black Ops series. Oh, precious Rezanov. Anyway, Reknoff's just like a real kind of asshole style character. The story starts off, Nick and Amanda are just like walking around town, flirting and chit-chatting and whatnot. And then this guy like runs up to him and is like, please, you must save me. I'm being attacked. And they're like, what? And then someone tries to kill them all. And so then we find out from this guy that he is an investigative journalist. He's investigating Reknoff, because he is going to spoil like the peace talks for like the Balkan Civil War situation that was like talked about in the previous, and was kind of going on in real life, I guess, in the 90s. Like, it was something some people were like concerned about. Like the Czech Republic and I don't really remember, something like that. Anyway, so that's a big deal. And so they're gonna finally like sign a peace deal and be done, but Reknoff's trying to sabotage it. And if Nick and Amanda can go get proof on this laptop that they have in the embassy, then they can like get him for good. And yeah, and so Nick and Amanda finally agree to do it. And they get in there, they almost get the laptop, and then the alarm goes off or whatever. And so they gotta like jet out of there, and as they jet out of there, Amanda feels like the presence, right? So Reknoff is an immortal, and he's an immortal that she knows from a long time ago. So she had this protege, Christina, who was a babe, who she was like grooming to be like the queen of something. I don't remember what country she's supposed to be a part of. Anyway, but she was teaching her how to sword fight and negotiate and do all sorts of fun, cool stuff that like girls aren't normally allowed to do, I guess. Which is a point that comes up. And then she's supposed to get married off to this guy, and then Reknoff's like a part of that guy's like entourage or something, because he shows up. And then even in like the, I want to say 1500s when this takes place, Amanda and this Reknoff guy have like some bad blood history. And so because of that, Reknoff's going to kill Christina at like her wedding day, or her like the night before her wedding day, or something. Anyway, he's going to kill her so to get revenge on Amanda. And so he does. And so Amanda's like, ooh, I hate that mother effer so much. And so at some point, they put together that that this guy is a watcher, which he is, and his dad was a watcher, and we found out the real reason he wants to get involved with this whole thing has nothing to do with Civil War. It has to do with the fact that this Regnov guy found out that he was being watched by his dad, who was a watcher, killed him, and now he wants revenge. And Amanda also wants revenge because this guy's a watcher, so he obviously knows everything about her past and their past together. Yeah, it's red. And so they are what? Yeah, look at that. Green, go. Yeah. Oh, the doggy. You like the doggy on the back of the car? Yeah. No? All right, hold on, guys. But Amanda wants revenge as well, and then Nick doesn't want to do anything about it. He just wants to get the laptop, move on with his day. And so they go and they get the laptop the second go around, and they're going to prove this guy's guilty and cause a lot of problems for him, and so he's butthurt about that. And then, so he kidnaps the watcher guy, Heffler? I don't remember. Anyway, they kidnap him. And so Nick goes after Heffler, who might also have the laptop at this point. I don't remember. And then, excellent review. So he goes after that, and then Amanda goes to fight Regnov, and then they yell at each other some more, and then she ends up killing him, which is awesome. It's how every Highlander episode should have a freaking battle like this. Maybe not everyone, but 90%. And so she kills him. They get the laptop and the guy back. They secure the peace talks, and they prove that there was corruption going on with this guy and some other shady business. And so everyone's very sour about Regnov, and he's disappeared. He ran off because he got caught in his scheme. Obviously, he didn't get killed by an immortal in a sword fight. That'd be silly. But it's a pretty good episode. The next episode, 20, starts with these random people. They're just hanging out, talking about something, doing something. This one guy, then a guy in a motorcycle rolls up and shoots this guy. And, oh, no, what's going on? Who's this person? No. Okay, so we then pick up, and we find out that the lady who is part of this thing with the guy who got shot is actually Nick's ex-wife. Are they actually divorced? I am not sure. Because he calls her his wife several times. I think they do talk about getting divorced. Anyway, she shows up. She needs Nick's help. She's in Paris, trying to track down this Dr. Heller, who's being tried in international court for organ stealing and selling and some crazy stuff like that. And as soon as so Nick takes her back to the place that him and Amanda share above the bar that she owns, I'm assuming, or the club, and they're chit-chatting, and then Amanda walks in, and she's like, oh, hey, what's up? And clearly Nick still has a thing for his ex-wife. I think she left him because of police stuff, but she's a lawyer who does, a lot of this, bleeding heart kind of stuff, so, neither of them have, safe jobs, per se. Anyway, and when Amanda asks her what she's doing and who she's trying, she mentions this Dr. Heller guy, and then we get a flashback. So the flashback, we see that Amanda's just doing herbal remedies in 1200s. It was a long time ago. Anyway, and then according to the church or the court or something, the only people who can do healings are doctors or something. And so this woman performing she's a witch, clearly, because she's being a midwife and stuff. And so Amanda gets into it with these guards, and then Heller rolls up, and then he ends up doing some really shady stuff, killing the lady that Amanda was tutoring to be helpful. And so Amanda really hates this guy, right? And then Nick also really hates this guy. Well, he doesn't really hate him yet. He confronts this guy about what's he doing and how he needs to leave his ex-wife alone, and he's going to get thrown in jail and all this stuff. And he's like, we'll see about that. And he doesn't, because he ends up, so the Nick and his ex-wife make sweet love after she's like, are you with Amanda? And he's like, oh, it's complicated, hashtag complicated relationships. And then Amanda's like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. And so she ends up seducing Nick so they can have sex. And right after they have sex, she is off doing something on her own, going to court or whatever. And then Heller grabs her up and kills her. And so the next day, Nick and Amanda show up to the trial, and they're yelling at the attorney who's representing Heller. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. Please leave me alone. It's so good. then as the police roll up and they're like, woo, 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 oh no, oh no, and it's the ex-wife, and oh no, she's dead, and Nick's like, no, and he's later on, he's like drinking and telling Amanda he's gonna find this guy and he's gonna kill him, and she's like, you're gonna cut off his head afterwards, and she's like, I don't think so, I'll take care of it. But as we've learned, Amanda is kind of surprisingly incompetent when it comes to sword fighting. And so she goes to like track this Heller guy down, and they start fighting, and then she almost gets beheaded. He like stabs her and is about to cut her head off, and Nick rolls in and like shoots at him. And so the guy runs off, and then Nick picks up Amanda's sword and chases after him, and then they're like having like a shoot off, or they're running around like some sort of like vacant lot that was next door to the studio or whatever, or construction site or whatever. And then Nick gets himself in a precarious situation, and the guy's like gonna get him, and he's something. And then Amanda like wakes up, and she's like, "Oh no!" And so she runs out there, and right as she's getting to like where the fight's happening, all of a sudden we get like the quickening, and so she gets all that sweet quickening because like her boyfriend helped defeat the enemy, which is super freaking lame. Like I don't know, man. Like if Amanda's gonna be the star of the show and she's gonna be an immortal, she needs to like do the dirty work. Like the fact that Nick keeps like saving her at the last minute is like, it gets rolled real fast. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, it kind of ruined the episode for me. Like other than that, it was like pretty good. But then at this end part, I'm like, oh, we're doing this thing again. Like he should have just gone on. Amanda should have had nothing to do with it. He should have just gone off, shot the guy and cut his head off, and then Amanda could still get the quickening. Who cares what the quickening? Quickening doesn't do jack crap in these movies and shows. So it's like, it's cute because you get like a little shot, and then the whole place is like on fire after she gets it, and Nick picks her up and is like carrying her off, and she looks like dazed and confused. So she's doing a good job as an actress, and the whole place is like on fire. So that was exciting. So you could still have that, but not have her like lose another freaking fight. Like how many fights has she lost? I feel like she's lost more fights than she's won in this series, and it's kind of like, what do you do? Why are we doing this? Like, what's going on? Oh well, 2 more to go. So this next episode, the penultimate episode, has a lot going on. Most of it is nonsense. So the episode starts off, and Liam is playing basketball with Nick at the church, and they're just having a gay old time. And meanwhile, there's this lady that shows up, and she's like a reporter of some sort. And so she's there, she's chit-chatting with them about something, church something. And then she kind of heads out back at this like random construction site by the church, and there she sees Amanda fighting some guy with swords, right? And then Amanda it looks like Amanda's kind of like winning, but then she gets distracted because she sees the reporter, and so she stops for a second, and then she gets stabbed by the other immortal whose name is Sean. And then he is about to kill her, but then he notices that she's over there. I don't know why Amanda wasn't just like, look, but she wasn't. And then so he runs off with his like little motorcycle gang, and at some point like she screams, and Nick like comes out, and Liam comes out, and then Amanda like wakes up, and she's like, oh, bro. And the investigative reporter sees her, so she's gonna go do a story and everything, and they're like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so inside the church, Liam kind of fills Nick in on what's going on, because this guy is not actually there to kill Amanda, he's there to kill him. Why would he be there to kill him? All right, so back in like the Revolutionary War, I want to say, Liam was hanging out with the Brits, and he's coming to America to like take care of business or whatnot. And he was, this is before he made his like vows and all that kind of stuff. And Amanda was there as well. She was just like, I don't know, a healing lady who like hung out with the troops or whatever. So they're doing their thing, and then we get like this Scottish guy and his like crew of Scottish fellas, and they're just like hanging out, getting ready to fight the redcoats and all that fun stuff. And then one of them, his mom is there, and he's like, Mom, you got to get out of here. And she's like, no, if my sons are fighting, I'll fight too. And that doesn't go well because first of all, so Liam comes out to fight. He notices that the Sean guy is there and that he's an immortal. So he's like, whatever, I'll just kill him and then take care of him. So he kills him, and he's like, all right, I'll be back for you in a little bit. And then he hears like a scream or something, and he just like reacts and shoots this Sean guy's mom. And then he freaks out because he didn't want to like kill her, obviously, because he's not like an a-hole, and she's like a non-combatant. But so he runs over to try to help her, and then he gets her over to Amanda, and then Amanda takes over. And then Amanda comes to him later. He's like freaking out and praying and stuff. And Amanda's like, hey, so she's alive, and he's like, oh good, so there's an immortal over there named Sean. It's her son. And there's a whole thing where like he promises her that like Liam promises the lady that he'll never like kill again and that he won't fight, and so he leaves his sword there at this point and just heads back to England to like be a priest, and I guess ends up in Paris at some point, and relives his life there and whatnot. And that's how he came to his stuff. That's how he became like the person that he was. And then so the Sean guy's got like a motorcycle gang in Paris now, and he really wants to kill Liam to get revenge, obviously. And so there's some back and forth with him and Nick talking about like honor and what it means to get revenge and a lot of like nonsense like that. And so then what happens next? Oh, and so like Liam's like, I got to take care of my own thing. I'm not going to fight him, but Amanda needs to stop fighting him. And like, oh, someday he'll get you if you refuse to fight him. He's like, I refuse to fight anybody. And at some point, and then we get like the side story with like the investigative journalist lady, and she just like, no one believes her that she saw somebody come back from the dead, obviously. And then she becomes like a laughing stock because she tries to publish this article about like someone coming back from the dead. And then she's like, she gets fired from her job because it's like, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? Like, why? And so she needs like proof, but she obviously can't get proof because dead men tell no tales or something. Anyway, the whole thing's kind of silly. So that's like her thing. She shows up again like later just to like exist. Oh, she shows up later because so at some point Liam's like, I'm gonna go do this thing, and Amanda's like, you can't fight him because yada yada, and he's like, well, I don't want to fight him, something. And then Amanda like fights Liam and just beats the crap out of him to prove to him that he doesn't have it in him to like actually fight, which I was kind of confused about that because it doesn't seem like Leon wants to fight this guy at all. And then the lady shows up and takes more pictures. So then Amanda does like the most ridiculous like triple flip attack to like disarm the woman from her camera, which is actually kind of funny. Then what happens after that? Oh yeah. Okay, so then later on, and so Nick tries to talk to this Sean guy again a couple times to remind him about the mother, and we find out at some point that the mother actually died, like that Amanda wasn't like fully honest with Liam, and so he's super pissed off at Amanda because she like lied to him, essentially telling her that the woman was going to be like okay, and in reality she was not going to be okay, like at allsies. And so he gets super pissed off, and then Sean like shows up to fight, and Liam just comes out without his sword and is like, kill me. And then Nick shows up and they like yell at him for like trying to interfere again in this stuff, and he's like, I just like, dude, put the gun away and let people like live their freaking lives, man. Anyway, I hate him so much. And then Amanda comes out, and Sean and Liam makes her promise that she's not going to get revenge immediately on this Liam character when he dies. And so she swears that she won't. And then he just like kneels down. He's like, go ahead, Sean, get your revenge. Like, your mother forgave me. I'm sorry that this happened. Like, I didn't mean for it to happen. I thought she lived, something, blah, 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 blah. And Sean's like having some real crisis of conscience about this whole situation because Liam's not like a bad guy per se, but he did kill his mom. And so eventually Sean decides he's just going to move on and let live. And then, so he takes off, and then the three of them, plus like the investigative journalist for some reason, who's like, shows back up, is like, they're chit chatting, and she's like, oh, no one believed my story and something. And like, now I'm like a complete failure at my job and all this stuff. But I can write a book. And they're like, wah, wah, wah. It's so dumb. All right, on to the final episode. Here we go. So in this episode, we start with this computer nerd stuff going on, and it's pretty funny, not gonna lie. In like the silliest way possible. Anyway, so this guy like hacks this dude's computer and like steals all the data and supposedly kills him or whatnot. The next day, we meet the lady who's the brother of this guy, and he is. And she's, her and Amanda know each other because of some reclamation of like British clothes and of robbing of a gem or whatever. And Nick's like, oh, I can help you find the person who robbed that gem. And Amanda's like, stay in your lane. Anyway, she's here to like talk to her brother, but her brother's been missing for a few days. And so Nick gets involved. And then we find out it's this like illusionist immortal guy, not like magic illusionist. There's no magic in this series, unfortunately. But he's somebody that is into potions and astronomy and all that kind of stupid esoteric nonsense. And now he's using computers and holograms and whatnot. So he wants $10 million. He was like finding a way to like use computers to hack and steal $10 million. And then the brother like found out. And so he got rid of him. And so then Amanda goes to like confront him, and we get their past. And apparently like back in the day, he was supposed to like inherit all this land and stuff because his older brother was like sickly and dying. And then of course, Amanda finds out that he's the one poisoning him, and then she confronts and gets him like convicted by like the father and whatnot. And so because of that, this guy like quote unquote lost everything and whatnot. And so he's, held a grudge against Amanda for quite some time at this juncture. And he wants revenge. And the revenge is going to come by getting $10 million and having her stay out of the way. Okay, sounds good. But what about the brother? So the brother, if they stay out of the way, he'll get him back or whatever. Nick, of course, can't stay out of the way because he's a doofus. And so he goes and gets involved with this guy, and they have like a fisticuff fight, and then the guy like poisons him. And so Nick's like dying of this poison. And the deal is like, hey, leave me alone and I will give you the cure for this poison. What about the brother? The brother's dunsies, so don't worry about it. Anyway, so then Amanda like recalls his like crazy nonsense and like how he used numerology and all this stuff. So she's able to figure out the bank account where all the money's being held, and so she can go get it, and they do get it, and so the guy can't get it, and then Nick like shoots him at some point. And so he's super pissed off about that, and Nick continues to be like dying. Then the girl gets confronted by the guy, and she's like, just show me my brother. And then he does, and then of course the brother's like dead, and then I think she's dead too. Like he kills her right afterwards. And so Amanda goes to finally like take care of business and confront him. And so she goes, and there's like holograms. So she has to fight, and it's a pretty cool battle. And then Nick's like dying, trying to like rescue this girl and figure out what's going on with that in this same complex. But eventually the guy's like, if you kill me, there's no cure. And she's like, I don't need a cure. And then she cuts off his head, takes his power, and then runs to find Nick. And Nick is like dunsies, right? He's like dying of this poison and whatnot. And so she's like, please forgive me. And he's like, forgive you for what? And then she shoots him because dun-ta-da, obviously we have known this. I figured this out like 12 episodes ago. Nick is an immortal. What? And she's always known, of course, because they just know. And all these other immortals who've been around Nick and whatnot, like Liam and stuff, have just been like not talking about it, I guess. So that's the thing. So anyway, so then he's super pissed off because I guess like if he had died of the poison, he would have not turned into an immortal or whatever. He would have just died, but because immortals need violent deaths to wake up or whatever, so she had to shoot him. And then he's super mad because there's a chance he could just be dead, but now he has to be an immortal, and he has to do all this stupid nonsense that he hates, and he's super mad. And then he's like stumbling off, thinking about how he loves Amanda, but like at the same time, he's super mad at her, and now he has to be immortal. And we never get follow-up on this because that's it. There's no more Raven. There's no second season. So that's that. So that is Highlander Raven. It is okay across the board. There's some fun episodes, but nothing that meets like even the best episodes of this show are like they don't match the best episodes of just the regular Highlander season. And so I would say this is like an easy pass. Like there's nothing about it that really was that exciting or interesting or whatnot, but it exists and it's there, and I watched it, so I could say I watched it, and now I have opinions on it. But that's that. So next up, we're going to go through the Mythos Chronicles, which are these quick little kind of web shorts that just deal with like Mythos living his life. And then we get back into the movies, and then we get into the cartoon, which I don't know anything about. It should be completely insane. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and join me again in 2 weeks for the Mythos Chronicles. And I'll catch you guys later. Bye.